Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Tonight we're talking about what's in the news. We're actually doing kind of like a Monday debriefing because I think a lot of times we have a lot going on over the weekend. We have a lot going on during the day because we're at work. And isn't it nice when we can just get our news in one place and in a short period of time? So that's what I'm going to start doing, and I'm going to do this beginning tonight. And let's talk about the news. Let's talk about what's in the news, just so that you are caught up and you don't have to worry about missing out on anything, okay? You don't have to miss out on anything because guess what? Ashley's going to help you out. First thing is that Obama and Vladimir Putin of Russia spoke today before the General Assembly. They blamed each other a little bit for the war in Syria and the refugee crisis that it has spawned. The Iranian leader will also speak today, or spoke earlier today, my bad. And, the Pope's grand farewell. Pope Francis is back at the Vatican after that 10-day visit to Cuba and the United States. And the Mass in Philadelphia on Sunday, I talked a little bit about that on Perspectives with Ashley Burgess that ran last night on 570 KLAF and Cumulus and iHeart. And also you'll be able to find that later on this week on Spreaker. The Mass in Philadelphia on Sunday, which was attended by 1 million people. 1 million people. Wow. He also met with victims of sexual abuse and vowed that those responsible will be held accountable. Interesting. Let's talk about Capitol Hill anxiety. The leading Republican candidate for president, Donald Trump, he's going to unveil what he calls a major tax reduction for almost all citizens and corporations. And I think we're at 30-something%. He's saying about lowering that top tax bracket down about 25%, and that's going to help a lot of the middle class. He's also going to lower corporate taxing since we are the highest in the world. A new poll shows there's been some gains by Ben Carson and Carly, both Republicans, and Senator Bernie Sanders is also seeking that Democratic nomination. Also think about life on Mars. What do you think about life on Mars? Scientists reported today that there are definitive signs of liquid water on Mars. That is the ingredient for life. So this is interesting. So this presents the fact that there may be life on Mars. And the market today, I'm sure that if you are actually in the market and playing the stock market, you probably know this, but if you are just have some investments and just kind of doing some mutual funds and that sort of thing, and checking out where it's at. The Wall Street stocks were down today, more than 1%. The European markets closed sharply lower, and the Asian index finished mixed. Now, let's see, more high-level firings could be announced at Volkswagen this week after the automaker's emissions scandal. Interesting. The EPA announced that diesel engine cars would be tested more rigorously in light of this recent Volkswagen deception. India, by the way, India is replacing China as the next big tech frontier for the U.S. companies as China's president stays firm on tough internet policies. I thought was interesting, too. I think some other stuff happened in India in space, and I'll get back to that later on, but I think there's some interesting stuff that happened in space involving India. The Royal Dutch Shell Oil, said today that it would stop the exploration off the coast of Africa for the foreseeable future. I think that's wonderful. I'm applauding Shell. Other people on the other side would say that they actually are getting out because they are not finding the oil and the reserves that they needed, so they are leaving. Either way, I'm happy for it one way or another, right? Last night, I watched the total lunar eclipse and the super moon, the super blood red moon. It was the first time in 33 years. The next one that will happen is in 18 years. God, that really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? It really does. You think about it. The last time it happened was in 33 years. Some of you weren't even born. I am in my late 30s, and so, or my mid to late 30s, and so to me, this is kind of a big deal. On some interesting news, a new partnership between Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Bank, and the World Health Organization will work to improve health care in poor and middle-income countries. In Facebook news today, because I know a lot of us love Facebook. It's part of our daily routine. It's part of our daily activity. Mark Zuckerberg announced that Facebook would help the UN bring internet connections to refugee camps. That's pretty cool. And former President Bill Clinton blamed Republicans for the issues surrounding Hillary Clinton's use of private email account and server while she was Secretary of State. Very interesting stuff. And, a lot of us sit there and wonder, what does this impact in my life? Why is this important in my life? And I think some of us have to let some of this go. Some of this is not essentially interesting. And some of this can be. And it kind of depends on where you fare on these issues. I think some of this news is viable and can be used in your daily life. I mean, the stock market is interesting. I mean, dealing with politics to me is kind of a he said, she said thing. I think that some of this news also, when you kind of read between the lines, kind of shows us that there are some things that maybe need to be investigated more. There's a lot of blame game, but there's also a lot of things that are kind of going on below the surface. To me, one of the most interesting pieces of information that came to light was that liquid water was found on Mars. And that means to me that there's definitely life on Mars. And so let's peruse this for a few minutes, and then I will be saying sayonara till tomorrow. But what does this mean to you? What do you think about when you think about life on Mars? I mean, are we just about to ditch Earth and go to Mars? I thought it was very interesting. I had somebody come into my office and some people involved with NASA that were asking me to see if I wanted to go to Mars. And I was like, you know what? I think it takes 9 months to get to Mars, right? 9 months. Can you think about getting in a road trip and getting in a car to go on a road trip for 9 months? 9 months. And you can't get out. Okay, that's the key. You can't get out to go to the convenience store. You can't get out to get food. You can't turn around. You can't just say, man, you know what? I'm tired of this. I want to go back. And then the problem is that even if you get there, let's just say you get there. You get to Mars. You land on Mars. You get out. You walk around. You do your thing. What's to say that you actually ever get back? And I think it's interesting. Recently, a lady... Okay, so her name is Natalie Lawyer. Lawyer was selected as one of the 100 global finalists who are vying to become a part of the 4-person team that's going to head off on the first mission to live on the Red Planet planned in 2024. One of the 7 selected Australians, Mrs. Lawyer's 2 daughters will be young adults by the time the project is ready, and she believes that while she would never be able to physically touch her children again, she would remain an integral part of their lives via satellite communication. Very interesting. And I want you to ponder our questions tonight because I think we want to go further into the news than what we hear on TV. What would you do? Would you ever go to Mars? Would you ever leave to try to go to a planet that you would never come back? That's a one-way ticket. And what's in the minds of the people that would, especially somebody that has a family? And what do you think about exploration of new planets and other planets? And, I think a lot of times I agree with the exploration, and I'm very happy about that. But at the same counterpoint is that I really wish we would do more to help our environment as it is right now. The concept that Shell is pulling out of the Arctic is a blessing. The fact that they're pulling out for whatever economic reasons, whatever it is, another blessing. I posted on Facebook, I said, thank God, thank you, Shell, for getting out of the Arctic Circle and to stop drilling. People always come, it wasn't about them doing something good. It was about them doing it because of the money. Well, that's fine, but either way, it's a blessing. The last thing we need is drilling in that area of our world. That is what keeps our whole world at a certain, homeostasis, and we've been screwing that up for so long. And what I'd like to take back and say is that what can we do to help our environment? And I know that we can do small things that resonate into big things, like recycling, reusing, repurposing. When we repurpose things, we do greatness. We're not just throwing things away. We're recycling what we can't use, whether we're sending them to the recycle bin and completely washing them and separating each item, or we're reusing things, repurposing them, making them into different things. Because I kind of feel weird when I say something's trash. Is it really trash or is it treasure? And I think when we start taking that piece of thought, that thought process, trash or treasure, and looking that within our own life, what are some of the things about ourselves and about our life that we've deemed as trash? It's time to really look at that and really think about what is it that we can reuse, what is it that we can repurpose, but better yet, what is it that we cannot place judgment on anymore? Can we live in a judgment-free zone? Can we live judgment-free, happy and healthy, and able to love ourselves and show compassion to others? Stay tuned. I got a great show for you tomorrow. And Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back this time in 3 shakes.